Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to today's podcast, which is all around the topic handbags. And today with me is Melissa, who is a true expert with many years of experience in the luxury fashion business. She's working for Thread Styling, which is our new partner for handbags on our platform. So we source our handbags through Thread Styling and through Melissa. And Threads was founded, I think it was over 10 years ago, and their expertise within the luxury product space is just like unique. But Melissa will just like tell you more and present to you the company Threads in a minute, and at the same time as well present herself to you as our audience. And on top of that, she will as well give you some market insights, including some numbers. And she will as well talk about the importance of the due diligence process whenever purchasing a bag. So as this is an on-demand webinar, you can submit questions at any time through the chat function, which is basically top right, and we will get back to you directly then after the webinar with the answer. And now, enough from my side. Melissa, thank you very much for being here tonight with us. I'm really excited about having you on this webinar, and with that, I would say I just share the presentation and hand over to you.
Thank you, Mario. Thanks for the introduction, and so lovely to meet you all. I hope you really enjoy this webinar that we have prepared for you on Hermès. So lots really to talk about. I guess a good starting point is to speak about Threads, the company. I know you mentioned already, but we've been in existence for over 10 years now, around 12 years actually. And it was launched by founder and CEO Sophie Hill in 2009. And essentially, our pioneering approach combines social media and online shopping using one-to-one chat platforms, which essentially enables us to connect with our clients in a really personal, unique way and provides the ultimate luxury styling service. So we've always consistently strived to inspire our clients through in-house created trend-led viral content, which you may or may not have seen if you've been on our Instagram, for example. And combining that with our expert knowledge and strong business relationships, we essentially acquire luxury products and share these directly to our clients through the likes of Instagram, WhatsApp, and WeChat. We have amazing access worldwide to otherwise hard to find pieces and a seamless delivery service, and aim to empower our clients to have instant access to a personalized styling service. We are essentially the personal shopper at the end of their phone, and this can all happen within their favorite social media apps. If you wouldn't mind going to that, thank you. So just to summarize, essentially what our ethos is and what we kind of stand for is giving our clients instant access to a personalized styling service, and that happens all within their favorite social media apps. So a bit more about Threads, and I guess what is interesting to know is why we feel that we are set apart from other personal shopping companies. So we have agility in our framework. We're not bound by holding stock, which means we can source items globally depending on where our clients are based. We have expert knowledge, so we have different levels of personal shoppers, and with their previous experience, also combined with our industry contact experience, we can present ourselves in the field of personal shopping and retail as experts in our field. We also pride ourselves on our strong relationships, and this is from our clients through to our contacts, like I said, because we source items globally. So it's really, really important that we have strong relationships. And during the time that we've existed, we've really built and developed on those relationships. An example, which I will elaborate on later, but is just around our pre-vetted, authentic Hermès sellers and suppliers. And over time, we obviously continue to cultivate those relationships. We have really loyal clients. So our clients have grown with us throughout the years, and they understand the journey and where we are headed. We always put the client experience first. In terms of reliability, we know the ever-growing need for things to be acquired and delivered in a really smooth and efficient manner. And we're always working out ways to make online personal shopping as seamless as possible. Like I said previously, we want to be the personal shopper at the end of the phone, and we want the process to be completely seamless. And then also being, I suppose, a tech fashion company, we are always thinking about ways that we can be ahead of the curve. So in an ever-evolving world, we understand that markets and trends grow and they develop and they change. So we're always gaining information from close sources, not only on the ground with our clients, so whenever we visit them in region, but also through our contacts that we have. So a bit more about me. So I've worked in luxury retail now for about 9-10 years, working previously at a global concierge company, which again, you may have heard of, called Quintessentially. And during that time, I worked my way up to be the head of the gifting company. And that was around 2016 to 2018, just before I left. In my previous role, quite similarly to what we do at Threads, I would sell predominantly high value items. So mostly Hermès, fine jewelry, watches, designer brands such as Chanel, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Prada. But during that time, really, I became a specialist in Hermès because I developed a real passion for the brand, just finding out more about them, their family history, the craftsmanship, the story behind how the bags are produced, and mostly how rare and exclusive they are. And even still to this day, you know, in the time that they've been creating these bags. Since the time that I've been personally selling Hermès bags, I've sold hundreds of bags, I've probably lost count, to clients, and also help them inform on which bags are best to buy, especially with clients who are real collectors. They have a passion for it, either on a personal level or an investment level, or both, and help to inform them on what to buy based on sizes, colors, leathers, any particular trends. And some of the rarest bags that I've sold include the diamond Himalayan Birkin, so essentially the Himalayan Birkin, and it has diamond hardware. The Gris Centre Himalayan Kelly, which is actually even rarer than the normal Himalayan. And more recently, there's a Birkin 20 Faubourg Birkin, which is based on the design of the store in Paris, as well as the Ombre Lizard Birkin, the Kelly doll, and many others. My clients and my colleagues affectionately refer to me as the Hermès Queen, and I've been the top seller for 3 consecutive years whilst being at Threads. Last year, I contributed just over 1.3 million to the overall team sales. And my top VIP clients regularly consult with me on which bags they should add to their collection as their next best investment. Just whilst I was mentioning the Himalaya bag, I thought it might be quite interesting to include this fact, but at the end of 2018, there was a rare and exceptional matte Himalaya Niloticus diamond crocodile Birkin in 35 centimeters, which sold at auction in London at Christie's for 236,000. And there have been subsequently, and prior to that, many Himalayan Birkins and Birkin and Kelly that have sold through auction. I suppose it's one of those bags that's almost like a Mecca bag. If you have that in your collection, then you've made it. Just forward onto the. Thank you. Some of you may know a little bit about the history of Hermès, but I thought it might be nice to include it because the stories behind them are quite sweet. So taking Kelly and Birkin as we see them as, I suppose, the front runners of the Hermès bags, it probably comes as no surprise that the Kelly bag was actually created first. So it started off originally in 1982. Hermès, whose history is based in saddlery and equestrian roots, they created the first prototype of the bag, which is called the Auto-Courrier. Sorry if I've butchered that, which was designed to hold a horse saddle. It then transpired, it moved on from there, and it became the inspiration for a plain and simple bag for Hermès' wife, who said she couldn't find the perfect handbag. In 1935, then Robert Dumas redesigned the 1923 bag, calling it the Sac à Dépêche, which is actually the original name for the Kelly. Hermès then gifted Grace Kelly a bag and it accidentally became famous in 1956 when she was photographed wearing it, and it's that really like iconic photo of her wearing it. And she was actually using it to hide her baby bump from the press. So it was the sac à dépêche bag that she was carrying, but then it became known as the Kelly bag, named after her, after she was seen wearing it. And then 25 years later on from that, in 1981, Jane Birkin, who is the singer and actress, she was on a flight from Paris to London when she dropped her belongings by chance. So she was known for carrying a wicker bag, you know, very French chic, and but it wasn't the most practical. So she was putting the bag in the upper head compartment when the lid came off and all of her belongings came out. And sat next to her was the executive chairman of Hermès, Jean-Louis Dumas, and he had a discussion with her, and she essentially said she was unable to find a suitable bag for being a mother and carrying her everyday needs. And the story goes that he grabbed a napkin and started sketching out what would be this ideal, roomy and classic bag. And so the Birkin bag was born in 1984. So a bit more on the history of Hermès. It's a well-known and loved French family-owned company, and still, all these years later, still family-owned, with 200 years of tradition. Thierry Hermès began his career in 1837, and as I mentioned, it has equestrian roots. So originally, it was around crafting harnesses, but then his fastidious devotion to material quality and craft meant that in 1880, Hermès and his sons introduced saddlery to their selection of products. Since then, Hermès have constantly developed their products to bring to market some of the most desirable pieces. Craftsmen spend typically around 18 months learning the craft, and it actually takes them 8 years working towards the title of Master Artisan. You can find at any one time a group of around 180 artisans, and you can find them selecting, cutting, perfecting, burnishing, stitching yards of leather, creating one of Hermès's signature bags, all exclusively made in France. And the Kelly bag is one of the most complex bags that Hermès produce in terms of the savoir-faire, or the know-how. It's founded in the tradition of saddlery and harnesses, and it requires 36 pieces of leather, a handful of metal parts, and it takes any one artisan between 15 and 20 hours to complete. So just moving on to some of the data points, which I'm sure will be of interest to you all. So as of February 2023, Hermès has a market cap of 199.57 billion. This actually puts Hermès in place as being the 47th most valuable company, ahead of Disney and Nike. According to Hermès's latest financial reports from 2021, the company's current revenue is 10.17 billion, which was an increase of 29.5% from their previous year in 2020, when their revenue was 7.85 billion. As well as of recorded data from 2021, leather goods and saddles make up a huge 46% of their worldwide revenue, which makes sense given their equestrian roots. And this is what the brand is known for, and how they've then developed into the eponymous bags that we know and love today. Birkin and Kelly bags have always been the most requested styles, which is why there's so many rigorous checks in stores for prospective clients. This can result in, really lengthy wait lists. There needs to be a certain relationship that's cultivated with any store assistant. They need to be known to you. You live within a certain radius of the store, have a certain spend amongst their other items, etc., etc. And all of these things combined create this aspirational desire for the bags, which are reserved for their top VIP clients. And then a study shown in the last 35 years shows that Birkin and Kelly bags have increased by 500%, which is an annual average increase of about 14%. And according to Reuters, in October 2022, the brand announced plans to continue increasing pricing from around on average 5 to 10% per year. And ultimately, this is reflected in the market demand and pricing that we see. So this graph, I thought, was just a really clear and obvious visual representation of Hermès's growth throughout the years. So this shows total revenue of Hermès sales worldwide between the period of 2007 and 2021. It's in million euros. And you can just see that there's this kind of really steady incremental growth throughout the years. A slight blip in 2020, which was to be expected as a COVID year. But then you see this quite aggressive growth then as soon as the stores were able to open and people were able to travel again in 2021. In terms of market trends, so this is some anecdotal, I suppose my anecdotal view, but it's been so interesting over the last 10 years watching bag trends change and develop, and just seeing how clients will, change their mind over periods of time depending on what the trends are at the time. So I remember when I first started, so around 2014, when I first started selling Hermès bags, the desire at that time was definitely for the bigger bags. So it was for the 35 centimeter, the 40 centimeter, and the hack bags, or the auto courrier. And then the Mini Kelly was released in 2016. And suddenly everyone was going the complete opposite end. So everyone wanted small bags, they wanted hands-free travel, they wanted things to be compact, small and compact. And taking Mini Kelly bags in particular as a case study, as they've been such an interesting one to see how they've grown over the years. So when I first started selling Mini Kelly bags in 2016, their market value initially was around 11,000 to 13,000. And in the time up until present day, they've over doubled in price, and they continue to grow year on year. And then more recently, Hermès have actually stopped producing as many Mini Kelly bags, and they've started leaning more towards being able to acquire these through special order horseshoe, or you might see it termed as HSS, which are essentially horseshoe bags that are only offered to the top 1 to 2% of their clients. And with these bags, they will allow you to select everything from the color of the leather, the type of the leather, the combination of the colors, the stitching, the hardware. But as they only present them to the top 1 to 2% of their clients, there's not as many of them around. So essentially leaning into that model of a lower supply and a higher demand, and therefore being able to increase their prices. And again, it just adds to the exclusivity of the style of the Mini Kelly bag. In terms of production volumes, Hermès are quite smart in that they never fully release their production volumes. And I think that's just to retain the mystery around availability and therefore retain the desire. It is predicted that there's around as little as 120,000 units produced every year, and that will go to all stores globally. And then just some kind of top line quick facts that I thought were really interesting. When the average Birkin or Kelly bag reaches the resale market, its value can increase anywhere from 50 to 100% from its retail value. There are certain colours that carry a premium at Hermès. So for example, bubblegum pink will be one. And this premium is then reflected in the secondary market. So when that bag is resold, that premium that happens in Hermès is then reflected in its market pricing. And prices can be anywhere around 15 to 20% higher than other colours. Hermès increase their prices in store every year by around 5 to 10%. And studies have shown that Hermès bags have averaged a 14.2% annual return over the past few decades, which beats out the price of gold. Hermès retain their classic colours. So for example, black, gold, a taupe, a tane, a taupe and a tane are like grey shades. But every year they introduce new colours, and that's to keep it fresh and obviously to keep clients still very much wanting the bags, you know, to retain the desire. And sometimes they'll also bring back old colours. So if they know historically a colour has done well, they will sometimes discontinue a colour because they want to bring in other colours, they want to develop it. And then sometimes they'll bring in newer colours, old colours, but bring them back. So a prime example of that would be colours such as bamboo, parchemin, and rouge H. And then at auction, pinks and blues have historically always been the highest performing. However, a study taken by Sotheby's of the most valuable Hermès bag colours sold at auction in the last 5 years, there's been a newer contender, which is the Vert Criquet, which I'm sure you'll familiarise yourselves with, the Mini Kelly. And that graph there is from that exact study taken by Sotheby's. So you can see Vert Criquet being the most valuable and the most popular, and then various different pink shades, and then also some blue and grey. In terms of risk assessment, so when acquiring luxury products, and this, you know, goes from Hermès through to any luxury brand, but as we're discussing Hermès here, and the element of selling remotely to our clients, there can always be risk associated, but as a company, we do everything we can to mitigate those risks. And so we have various verification and authentication checks that happen to ensure that we always provide top quality, authentic products. And as part of this, we include requesting pictures and videos prior to purchase. We review bags in person where we can, so with suppliers that we know that we work with that may have physical stock in London, we will go and physically see it ourselves. Referencing colour names, bag size and leather type against the original restore receipt provided, so making sure obviously that all correlates. The only exception to that is with vintage bags, because there was a period of time where Hermès actually never produced receipts. But then as there was a growing demand for them over time, they started to. So you'll notice that vintage tends to be anything that's 20 years or older. So anything that's current, there will be a Hermès receipt provided. We work with pre-vetted and trusted suppliers and have done for a number of years. There's 3 authentication checks that happen during the process. So starting with our supplier, there's also authentication checks that happen in-house. And then we take white card imagery, which is where we thoroughly check over the bags for any inconsistencies or flaws. And essentially, we are quality control checking the piece to make sure everything is in perfect condition. Where we can, we always try and deal with shorter supply chains and get closer to the source. So in some instances, we're able to get bags directly from boutique or from established vintage sellers. And then also we have experienced and knowledgeable personal shoppers and Hermès contacts, and that's to ensure clear, open communication is had between the seller and the end client. And we have really clear terms and conditions that are in place as well. Just following on from that as well, artisans in Hermès's French workshops are trained to expertly mix dyes, and the brand has really exacting standards that ensures consistency throughout the decades. And then in regards to counterfeit bags, Threads works, as I mentioned, with pre-vetted and trusted suppliers. As such, we've never dealt with any inauthentic bags. However, as an industry standard, there's always external companies. So Baba Bebe is one that's really in the industry, is really well known and people will be familiar with, and they can verify the authentication of a bag. They have a very rigorous process also, which includes checking the colour, tone, smell of the leather, the quality of the zippers and the hardiness of the hardware. So just making sure obviously the hardware is in the exact metal and it's not plated, which would be a sign of an inauthentic bag. The spacing of the stitching and also the Hermès lettering. So this is also something that happens with Prada, for example, is coming to mind, where they don't have exactly symmetrical spacing between the letters. And that again is to prevent inauthentic or counterfeit products being made. The checks also include the location of the internal stamp in the bag, and the stamp of a Hermès bag will denote various things, including the year that the bag was made, the unique code of the artisan who created the bag, and also if there are other details. So say, for example, if it's a crocodile skin or an alligator skin, it will have details about that as well. And that's a unique stamp to Hermès. And then also the shape of the bag and the details of the receipt, so the store location, amongst many other things. And just a note again on Baba Bebe, they are an expert who have been in the field for over 30 years, buying, collecting, studying bags, and is known worldwide in the industry. And then, yeah, I guess with maintenance, they're beautiful bags. We want them to last a lifetime, and so they should. But as they are natural skins, they do require a certain element of maintenance. So they're carefully crafted artisanal bags, and they should last a lifetime. But there's some do's and don'ts that we suggest. So do's, lots of do's. Do use a dry lint-free microfiber cloth to remove minor dirt. For any kind of hard to reach areas, so with the hardware, attempt to use a soft, and then again, you can use a microfiber cloth. Always let your Hermès bag dry naturally and keep it away from any direct influences of sunlight or heat. So, blow dryers, radiators, etc., or even having it in harsh sunlight. We would always say to prevent that, because again, it's a natural skin. And Hermès do offer a bag spa service for larger repairs. It can be subject to the store and the relationship with the store assistant. And this service can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And then just some don'ts. The leathers are natural and they're living as such, as they're animal leather. So just to avoid any kind of oily, alcohol, perfume-based products. And then also avoiding scratching with sharp jewelry edges, especially on some of the smoother leathers that you see as Box, Madame, or Swift. And that's it. Thank you so much. Time truly is valuable, especially in this day and age. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Melissa. That was super interesting. As well for me, I liked especially the part. So I learned a lot tonight, and I like the part about the different colors. And this is actually not only super smart to keep the sales going and kind of to make people complete the collections, but it's as well like makes totally sense from a fashion industry perspective, where you always have new trends and new colors. And so you basically take into your assortment again old colors or add new ones, like depending on whatever suits. So really cool. Thanks a lot. And another thing is, like, on the due diligence process, I was quite impressed how they tackle as well the counterfeit part. So it's basically a bit comparable to a bank bill, where you have as well like different security thingy on the bill, on which you can basically recognize if it's a real banknote or not. So that was as well quite interesting. And I know from the wine industry that they change that basically year by year. So they always change. So that's basically the same as well in the world of Hermès.
Yeah. So just a prime example of that is previously the stamps used to be on the inside of the arm. So, you have the two arms at the front of the bag that go over the kind of hardware clasp. And that was in that location for many, many years. And then they actually changed it into the inside on the left-hand side, and they probably will change it again. And that's just always to be ahead of the curve and make sure that they are, always one step ahead. Also with the year stamp, for the most part, it is alphabetical. So for the most part, it is, this year might be A, this year might be B. But sometimes what they'll do is they'll skip a stamp. So again, that's another way to just, rather than, on the counterfeit market, they might be thinking, okay, the next stamp's going to be B. But a prime example of that is they had A stamp and then they just went to C. So they're always staying ahead. And when we're buying bags from store, or our suppliers are buying bags from store, they have that intel, they have that information. So
yeah. Oh, cool. Very interesting. And I didn't know that the company is still privately owned. I always thought that this would belong to Richemont or Louis Vuitton or a bigger brand like that. So I didn't know that they're still kind of independent from the bigger companies. So maybe a question from my side. We were talking a lot about the Hermes bag, so Birkin and Kelly. Obviously, that's as well what we've brought so far to the platform.
Yeah.
Do you see other bags which you would consider investment grade, where you would say, hey, this is something very unique and definitely will not lose value over time?
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting because the trend amongst all of their bag styles, and I guess this leans into the trend in all of their sales, always increase. Obviously, the Birkin and the Kelly bags are the kind of more heavy hitters, as it were. So they tend to yield a larger return than some of the other bags. But if we're thinking about, say, some of the smaller bags, the Picatin bag comes to mind because what's happened is when the mini Kelly bags start to increase, naturally the clients that can still afford them still buy into them. But then there will be certain clients who think, actually, let me see how I can spend my money elsewhere, see what there is. And the Picatin bag was created, and it's a small handheld everyday bag, obviously beautifully crafted, as are all of their bags. And that we've seen has definitely increased, less so than the Birkin and the Kelly, but definitely has increased over time. And then my other suggestion really would be whenever there's new bags, because whenever they release new bags, there's always a surge of interest. So the trend that we tend to see, for example, again, a bag called On the Loop. And I can send pictures of this. I don't know if you have like a sharing platform, but I can send pictures that you can send on. But essentially looks like the Picatin updated. That's not what Hermès are selling it as. They're selling it as its own entity, its own bag. But essentially looks like the Picatin bag with a slightly updated design. And what we tend to find is when the first few come to market, because there's only a few to market, the price will be very high. Then as more colors come through and kind of production comes through, the prices drop ever so slightly, and then they kind of incrementally increase over time. So at that kind of, I suppose, the inflection point where they very so slightly drop, I always say that that's a great investment point, because from there, then they will increase over time. Yeah. And Constance bags. I mean, Constance is another iconic bag that always holds its investment.
Perfect. And then we might have the chance to bring a bit more variety then as well to the platform.
Yes.
And I like the idea about that the price basically is peaking because it's very trendy and people want to have it right now. And after a while, when there is more variety out there to purchase from, the prices as well drop and start to increase again over time. So
yeah,
it would be a very nice investment case, I would assume so. Then you have a lot of insights within the not only within the bag industry, but obviously in the full fashion industry. Do you like which other fashion items or luxury items do you see on a daily basis where you would say, hey, look, they basically have the same trends like the Hermès bag, so they basically steadily increase, the prices steadily are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of the production volumes are kept naturally at the low level in order to maintain as well the prestige of the item?
It's quite an interesting one. I'm not just saying this for my love of Hermès, but I really feel like there is no other company quite like Hermès in terms of the fact that Hermès keep their production volume still low, but they keep the interest and the pricing high. They're able to increase without increasing their production volumes. But for example, the Chanel flat bag is always a great investment. Predominantly black, the more classic colors, so black, beige. Beige actually sometimes tends to go for more than black because there's less of them produced. But when it comes to the black flat bag, just the classic in any size really, and also caviar, because there's less made in caviar than there are in lambskin. The thing with Chanel is they've actually increased their store prices more than Hermès have. So their overall investment potential is slightly lesser than Hermès, I would say, but nonetheless still a great investment case. And what we find with Chanel flaps is clients even tend to buy into the vintage, because with the vintage Chanel bags, the hardware is still 24 karat gold, whereas on some of the newer bags, it's gold plated. Still, the desire is there for both, but I would say probably that. You do get some trend bags. So for example, Chanel we call them cult bags, or, it bags. They increase them and then they just go completely viral. They blow up and everyone wants them. So for example, the Chanel introduced this heart-shaped bag, and that had a lot of popularity. So they would be great investment pieces as well. Really anywhere where I would say there is a real demand for it, or a hunger, or where there's a limited supply and it's a classic.
Very interesting. Thanks a lot for sharing, Melissa. And I just had one thought.
Mm-hmm.
And is it possible that like majority of all those bags are purchased within stores, like directly within the store, and
As
not
in the Chanel bags?
no with the Birkin bags?
What do you mean? Sorry.
I was thinking about the graph which you presented beforehand with
Mm-hmm.
the development of the of the revenue of Hermès. And that was like if you see how much it peaked after the COVID year, so in 2021 with the reopenings, and I was like considering, like, is it something which people really like more tend to go to the store and purchase there, and rather than doing some online shopping? Because this will basically explain that there is such a huge demand after the reopening, but still quite a high demand during the COVID time, and basically the shops are closed as well for a while, not that easy accessible.
Yeah. So with those the kind of main bags, so the Birkin, the Kelly, the Constance, the bags that everyone wants, they're not available online. They're only offered through a store assistant if you have a good relationship and you build it up over time. But Hermès have quite a smart model in the sense that they know that everyone wants them for their bags, and therefore even with their top clients, they have a system whereby you have to spend a certain amount. It's really in the hundreds of thousands across their other products, so their homeware or their smaller accessories, and that's how they make sure that they have sales across all of their products and not just the bags. And then once they feel that you're a qualified client, they will start granting access to their larger bags. So I think that graph sort of shows that the demand never goes away, but the only blocker to people buying into Hermès in 2020 would have been the stores being physically shut because they were globally, and then also the lack of people being able to travel. But then as soon as, 2021 wasn't even really a fully normal year. There were still restrictions and all of that, but you can see that quite aggressive growth again in 2021, which shows that in pockets where we were able to travel and we were able to shop, people were, getting back to buying their beloved pieces.
Perfect. Very interesting. Melissa, thanks a lot for being here tonight and taking the time to present thread styling and yourself, and as well like all those interesting facts about the mainly Hermès bags, and as well for answering all the questions. So thanks a lot for that. Really appreciate it. For all the viewers, please, like I said at the very beginning, submit your questions. So you can do that top right again in the chat function. Just send it through, and we will then get back to you and summarize the answers for you as well. With that, again, thanks a lot, Melissa. And
thank you so much. It's been great.
To everyone outside, have a nice evening. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
If you like this conversation, you can download our app, visit our website splintinvest.com, follow us on social media, or subscribe to our newsletter where you'll be informed about the newest podcast episode. Thank you for this, and until next time.